As the Draconian fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Would the fleet crush Earth, as they had done with so many other planets? Or was something else in store for the Draconians, a surprise they would never expect? The answer, as it turned out, was one that would shock the galaxy to its core. The Draconian fleet had reached Earth's atmosphere, their massive ships hovering ominously above the planet. The once calm skies were now filled with the shadows of these strange alien vessels. Yet, as they descended, something unexpected began to unfold. The Draconians had prepared for a swift victory. Their technology was unmatched, their weaponry deadly. But instead of finding an unarmed planet ready to surrender, they were met with confusion. Humanity did not react in the way they expected. Earth's military forces did not rush into battle, nor did they cower in fear. Instead, humans did something that the Draconians could not have imagined. They waited. All across the world, people looked up at the sky with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Earth's leaders, who had spent days debating their response to the alien fleet, realized there was no use in fighting what they could not understand. Instead, they turned to their greatest strength: communication. Governments called for calm and unity, urging citizens to remain peaceful and rational. In the heart of the United Nations, representatives from every nation gathered to discuss what to do. They knew that any confrontation with the Draconians could be disastrous, yet they could not ignore the threat. But even as they debated, one thing became clear: Earth was going to face this challenge differently. The best minds of humanity were united, ready to find a way to understand the Draconians rather than fight them. Back in space, Commander Rithar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at Earth. The fleet's systems were malfunctioning more with every passing moment. He could feel the strange interference, like invisible walls pressing against the fleet's sensors. His confidence began to falter. He had expected Earth to be a quick and easy conquest, but instead, the planet seemed to be resisting them in ways they did not understand. Why are our systems failing? Rithar muttered to himself, his eyes scanning the screens in front of him. This is impossible. His engineers and scientists had not been able to provide a solid explanation. It wasn't just their technology. The ship's weapons, designed to obliterate entire cities, were behaving erratically. Nothing made sense. The more the fleet tried to advance, the more they encountered difficulties. It was as though the very environment of Earth was against them. On the ground, the people of Earth were starting to realize something strange. They were not under attack. Despite the terrifying sight of the Draconian ships in the sky, nothing had happened. No bombs, no weapons, no signs of war. Earth had not been destroyed. And so, humanity began to look at the situation from a different angle. What if the Draconians weren't the real threat? The world's scientists, already monitoring the situation, started to piece together a strange theory. Earth's magnetic field, which had long been known to affect everything from weather patterns to communications, was likely interfering with the Draconians' technology. The planet's atmosphere, with its combination of electromagnetic fields, radiation, and unpredictable weather, was unlike anything the Draconians had encountered before. As more data came in, the scientists realized that the Draconian fleet's advanced systems were becoming overwhelmed by the natural forces of Earth itself. The ship's engines, once fast and efficient, were now sluggish and unstable. Their weapons, once precise and deadly, were malfunctioning. The more they attempted to adjust, the worse the situation became. It was as if Earth's very atmosphere was rejecting them. This revelation spread quickly, and soon it was clear that the Draconians were in trouble. Earth's forces, though small compared to the Draconian fleet, had a distinct advantage. They understood the planet. They had lived with its quirks, its strange weather, and its magnetic fields. The Draconians, however, were strangers in a land that was not their own. As the Draconians continued to struggle, a quiet realization began to dawn on the leaders of Earth. Perhaps this wasn't about strength. Perhaps it was about survival. Humanity had always survived by adapting, by thinking outside the box, by using what they had in unexpected ways. And now, Earth's leaders were about to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. Commander Rithar, growing more frustrated, ordered his fleet to retreat to a safe distance. He could not afford to lose his ships, not when their technology was failing so miserably. The Draconians had always prided themselves on their power, but now they were facing something they had never anticipated. A world that fought back without firing a single shot. On Earth, people began to talk about the strange situation with growing curiosity. News outlets covered the Draconian fleet's arrival from all angles. Some speculated that Earth was about to fall. Others believed that humanity had a chance. But one thing was clear: Earth had already begun to turn the tables. Without firing a single weapon, they had forced the Draconians into a retreat. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was a start. Humanity had done something the galaxy had never seen before. The world watched in wonder as the Draconian fleet, which had once been invincible, struggled to hold onto its dominance. And as Earth's leaders met to discuss what to do next, they knew one thing for certain: this was not the end. This was only the beginning. The Draconian fleet, now hovering above Earth's atmosphere, found itself in an unprecedented situation. Their advanced technology, once thought to be invincible, was malfunctioning. Weapon systems failed, engines sputtered, and communication links were lost. The fleet, which had once struck fear into the hearts of countless civilizations, now found itself crippled by the very planet it had intended to conquer. Commander Rithar, standing on the command bridge of his flagship, could hardly believe what was happening. His hands clenched the armrests of his chair as he stared at the flickering screens. The strange magnetic disturbances of Earth had overwhelmed their most powerful systems. Nothing made sense. "This can't be happening," Rithar muttered under his breath, his voice tight with frustration. "We are the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. How can we be stopped by a primitive planet?" He called in his lead engineer, a Draconian named Vrax, to explain what was going wrong. Vrax hurried to the command center, his sharp features filled with concern. "Commander," Vrax began, his voice anxious. "The interference, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. Earth's magnetic field, its atmosphere, the way the planet interacts with space itself. It's disrupting everything we've relied on. The ships are losing power. Even our most basic systems are shutting down." Rithar scowled, but his eyes were full of doubt. "This is unacceptable. We cannot retreat. We need to crush them. Now." But even as he gave the order, the situation worsened. The fleet's weapons systems, designed to obliterate entire cities, were now firing erratically, missing their targets by miles. The ship's engines, which were meant to propel them at incredible speeds, sputtered and slowed. The very fabric of their superior technology was being unraveled by Earth's natural forces. From the surface of Earth, people watched as the massive fleet loomed overhead, its ships struggling. The situation was surreal. No one could quite believe what was happening. Despite the fear that had once gripped the planet, a new feeling began to spread among the people: curiosity. For the first time, Earth's scientists were being taken seriously. Their theories about the strange disruptions caused by Earth's natural forces were beginning to seem less like speculation and more like reality. The more they studied the fleet, the more they understood that this wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a battle of environments, one that Earth seemed to be winning. But despite all this, the Draconians did not give up. They continued their attempts to regain control of their ships, desperately trying to fix the problems plaguing them. However, each attempt only made things worse. The powerful ships began to veer off course, their once precise movements turning erratic and unpredictable. Then, as quickly as it had all begun, the Draconian fleet vanished. One moment, the sky was filled with the massive ships of the Draconian fleet, their engines struggling against the natural forces of Earth. The next moment, the fleet was gone, leaving behind only empty space where the ships had once hovered. The sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Back on Earth, the world's leaders scrambled to understand what had happened. How could a fleet, so advanced and powerful, just vanish without a trace? Theories ran wild. Some suggested that the Draconians had retreated to regroup, while others believed that their technology had been destroyed by the planet itself. But one thing was clear: the Draconian fleet was no longer a threat. As news spread across the world, people were left in a stunned silence. Had Earth just survived an invasion from one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy? How had this happened? There were no answers, only questions. Humanity's leaders were now faced with a new dilemma. While the immediate threat had passed, the disappearance of the Draconian fleet left them with no clear understanding of why it had occurred. The planet had been spared, but for how long? Had the Draconians retreated for good, or were they simply regrouping for a second attempt? Despite the uncertainty, there was one thing that all of Earth could agree on: something had changed. The galaxy, which had always viewed humanity as weak and insignificant, would now look at Earth differently. For the first time, humans had proven that they were more than just a target. They had stood their ground and survived the impossible. The Draconians had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but they had been defeated by a force they had not anticipated. Not human strength, not advanced technology, but something much more fundamental: Earth itself. And now, as the Draconian fleet disappeared into the depths of space, the people of Earth could only wonder what would happen next. Would the Draconians return with a new strategy, or had humanity's victory over the fleet changed the galaxy forever? One thing was certain: Earth had caught the attention of the galaxy. And from that moment on, the universe would never look at humanity the same way again. The Draconian fleet's sudden disappearance left the world in a state of shock. For days, humanity's leaders tried to make sense of the event. Yet no one had a clear explanation. The fleet, which had been on the brink of invading Earth, had simply vanished, leaving behind only confusion and wonder. In the weeks that followed, scientists worked tirelessly to understand what had happened. The first major discovery came when they analyzed the strange electromagnetic disturbances that had affected the Draconian ships. Earth's magnetic field, which had always been a source of interest to scientists, was more complex than they had realized. Its natural forces had caused havoc with the Draconian technology, forcing the fleet to retreat. But how had such a thing happened? How had a planet so primitive as Earth managed to stop an invincible empire? Some theorized that it was the planet itself, with its unique atmosphere and magnetic properties, that had driven the Draconians away. Others believed that the Draconians had simply underestimated humanity's resilience. No matter the explanation, the result was clear: Earth had survived. The world celebrated the unexpected victory. But there was no sense of triumph, no victorious speeches or parades. Instead, there was a quiet reflection. Earth had been saved, but at what cost? How long would the Draconians stay away? Would they return, perhaps with new strategies? And if they did, what would humanity do then? Humanity had not won through force or superior technology. They had won by surviving, by resisting, and by using the planet's natural forces in ways the Draconians had never imagined. Yet even as Earth's leaders took stock of this achievement, they knew that it was not enough. Earth was still vulnerable. In the heart of the United Nations, the world's leaders gathered again, this time to discuss the future. There were many questions, but one was most pressing. What now? What if the Draconians return? Asked President Olivia Harris, her voice steady, but her concern evident. She had led the emergency meetings when the fleet first arrived, and she had watched as humanity's future hung in the balance. We can't rely on Earth's magnetic field forever. We need to prepare. We need to know how to defend ourselves in case this happens again. The room fell silent. President Harris wasn't wrong. While Earth had survived, humanity had learned a valuable lesson. It wasn't enough to rely on the planet's natural forces. They needed to be ready for what might come next. They needed to understand their place in the galaxy and how to defend their home. should any other alien race think they could threaten Earth. That evening, a plan was set into motion. Scientists, engineers, and military experts were brought together in a global effort to create new technologies, ones that would complement Earth's natural defenses. They would not just rely on Earth's magnetic fields. They would use them, adapt to them, and turn them into an advantage. But they also knew that building a defense system powerful enough to stand against an empire like the Draconians would take time. While the leaders of Earth worked on their preparations, the ordinary people of the planet watched and waited. They were proud of how far humanity had come, but they knew there was more work to do. They had seen the Draconians' power up close and had felt the fear of the unknown. But now, there was a new sense of hope. Humans weren't weak. They weren't helpless. They had shown the galaxy that they could stand against the strongest of invaders. Far beyond Earth, in the deep reaches of space, the Draconian Empire was still reeling from its failure. Commander Rithar, humiliated and frustrated, sat in his private chambers aboard the flagship, trying to make sense of the events. His fleet had never been defeated, and yet here, on Earth, it had been stopped by a planet no one had ever considered a threat. It was an insult that could not be ignored. "I will not let this stand," Rithar muttered to himself, his voice cold with determination. "The Draconian Empire will not be defeated by a single world. Earth will pay." He stared out into the blackness of space, his mind filled with thoughts of revenge. But even as he plotted, another part of him understood the truth. Earth was not the weak, defenseless planet they had once believed it to be. It had fought back, and it had won, using its own natural forces. If the Draconians were to return, they would have to come up with something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. Back on Earth, humanity had learned a valuable lesson. They might not have the technology or weapons of the Draconians, but they had something far more powerful: the ability to adapt, to think beyond their limits, and to survive. President Harris addressed the world in a speech broadcast to every nation, every home. "Today, we stand at the edge of something new," she said, her voice strong and hopeful. "We have survived the impossible, but we must be prepared. Earth is not just a planet. It is our home, and we will protect it. We may not know what the future holds, but we know this: humanity will face it together. And no matter what comes our way, we will never stop fighting for our future." As the world watched her, a new sense of unity filled the air. Earth had faced its first great challenge and had survived. But this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven it could survive an empire's invasion. Now it was ready for whatever came next. It had been months since the Draconian fleet had vanished from Earth's skies. Life on Earth had returned to a sense of normalcy, but the feeling of uncertainty still lingered. The events of that day had left a deep mark on humanity's collective consciousness. People no longer looked at the stars the same way. The vastness of space no longer felt so distant or so safe. Earth had been tested, and the world had passed the test. But the question remained: would the Draconians return? In the heart of the United Nations, a new task force had been created. The Global Defense Initiative, GDI, was formed with a singular purpose: to ensure that Earth would never again be caught off guard. The task force brought together the best minds in science, technology, and military strategy, with representatives from every corner of the world. They knew that Earth could no longer rely on luck or chance. If they were to survive, they needed to be prepared for whatever the galaxy could throw at them. Dr. Liam Carter, a brilliant scientist and one of the leading experts in Earth's magnetic field, was one of the first to propose an idea that would change everything. He believed that Earth's natural magnetic field could be harnessed not only to defend the planet, but also to create a shield around the entire planet, making it impenetrable to foreign invaders. "We've seen the effect Earth's magnetic field had on the Draconians," Dr. Carter explained during a meeting at the GDI headquarters. "It wasn't just a fluke. The planet's energy is unlike anything they've encountered before. If we can amplify this field, we can create a shield that would make Earth nearly invisible to advanced alien technology. The idea was ambitious, but the GDI was willing to take the risk. They immediately began working on the design for a global network of satellites and ground-based systems that could amplify Earth's natural magnetic forces. It was a race against time. The threat of future invasions, whether from the Draconians or any other alien race, still loomed large. As the months passed, the project came closer to completion. Teams of engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, building the infrastructure needed to support this massive undertaking. Entire cities became centers for research and development. The work was grueling, but the world's leaders knew that failure was not an option. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the people were coming to terms with their new reality. The fear of invasion had not completely faded, but there was a sense of purpose that had emerged in its place. Countries that had once been divided now worked together as never before. Global trade, cooperation, and peace became the priority, with the realization that humanity's survival depended on unity. In schools across the world, children were taught about the Draconian encounter and how Earth had survived. They were taught about the resilience and ingenuity of humanity, and how it was these very qualities that had allowed them to overcome an enemy far more powerful than they could have imagined. The message was clear. Humanity had the potential to face anything the universe threw at them. Back in space, Commander Rithar of the Draconian Empire had not forgotten about Earth. While his fleet had been forced to retreat, the humiliation had not gone unnoticed by his superiors. The failure to conquer Earth had left a stain on the Draconian Empire's pride. But even more than that, it had ignited a desire for revenge. Rithar had been ordered to return to Earth, but this time, with a new strategy. "You will not fail again, Commander," the Draconian High Council had warned him. "Earth is not to be underestimated. Prepare your fleet and make sure the galaxy knows that the Draconians are not to be challenged." Rithar had spent the months since the retreat preparing for this second campaign. He knew that the Draconians' previous mistake had been underestimating Earth. They had assumed that they could crush humanity with sheer force, but Earth had proven to be more resilient than they had anticipated. This time, he would be ready. As the Draconian fleet began to gather in deep space, Earth's preparations were nearly complete. The Global Defense Initiative had successfully created the electromagnetic shield, which was ready to be activated. It wasn't just a defense mechanism. It was a new form of technology, one that would give humanity an unprecedented advantage over any would-be invaders. The shield would be Earth's first line of defense, but it was only the beginning. Alongside the shield, new weapons and military strategies were being developed, based on Earth's unique understanding of its environment and its ability to adapt. Earth was no longer the weak, defenseless planet that the Draconians had once seen it as. It had become a force to be reckoned with. As Earth's leaders stood at the edge of a new era, they knew that the future was uncertain. The Draconians were not the only threat in the galaxy, and more unknown dangers could emerge. But one thing had become crystal clear. Humanity was no longer helpless. They had faced down an empire, and they had survived. And now, they would be ready for whatever came next. On Earth, people looked to the skies with a renewed sense of hope. The unknown no longer felt so frightening. They knew that they had the power to protect their home, to defend their world. The galaxy had watched as humanity fought back against the Draconian Empire. Now it would watch as Earth stood firm against any future challenges. And as the stars shimmered above, humanity stood united, prepared to face whatever the universe would bring their way. Months had passed since the Draconian fleet's unexpected retreat, and Earth was now a different place. The world had united in the face of a common enemy, and humanity had grown stronger. The magnetic shield that protected the planet was operational, and Earth's leaders felt a sense of cautious optimism. They had prepared as best they could. They had learned from the past and were determined not to make the same mistakes again. However, as Earth's defenses grew, so did the uncertainty. There were whispers in the corridors of power, Rumors of a new fleet gathering in deep space. The Draconians were coming back. This time, they would not underestimate Earth. And Earth's leaders knew that this time, they would face a far stronger force. In the heart of the United Nations headquarters, President Olivia Harris gathered the world's top military leaders and scientists. They had worked tirelessly to prepare for the return of the Draconians, but now, the time for preparation was almost over. The first signs of the Draconian fleet had been detected by Earth's newly developed deep space sensors. "We've got them," said General Adrian Cole, looking at the large screen in front of them. The screen displayed the blinking red dots of the approaching Draconian fleet, far out in the depths of space, but quickly moving toward Earth. "They're coming." The room fell silent. This was no longer just a possibility. It was happening. The Draconians were returning. President Harris's voice was calm but firm as she addressed the room. "We knew this day might come. We are ready. We must show the galaxy that Earth will not bow to anyone." The room buzzed with activity as Earth's military leaders began making final preparations for the defense of their world. The magnetic shield was fully operational, but they couldn't rely on it alone. Earth needed a plan to fight back, should the Draconians try to breach the shield. They had already created advanced weapons that could potentially stop the Draconians in their tracks. However, no one could predict exactly how the battle would unfold. On Earth's surface, the mood was a mix of anxiety and hope. People could feel the tension in the air. The news reports were filled with updates about the approaching fleet, and families hugged their loved ones a little tighter at night. The feeling of uncertainty was palpable, but there was also a sense of resolve. Earth had survived once, and they would do everything in their power to survive again. The days seemed to stretch into eternity as the Draconians drew closer. Commander Rithar, leader of the Draconian fleet, was determined to make Earth pay for its defiance. He had studied their defenses, and while he had acknowledged the power of Earth's magnetic shield, he believed that nothing could stand in the way of the might of the Draconian Empire. Rithar's fleet, now reinforced with new technology and a larger armada, was ready. He had no intention of making the same mistake twice. The Draconians would take Earth, no matter the cost. His eyes burned with a cold fury as he ordered his fleet to begin its final approach. "We will show them that they are nothing," Rithar declared, his voice as sharp as the blade of a sword. "Earth's shield will fall before us." Back on Earth, as the days passed, the atmosphere grew more intense. Earth's leaders worked around the clock, making sure that every detail of the defense plan was ready. There was no room for error. If the Draconians attacked, Earth's response would need to be swift and decisive. President Harris addressed the world in a televised broadcast, urging calm and unity. "We are not afraid," she said, her voice strong and confident. "We have prepared for this. Together, we will face whatever comes. Earth stands united. We will not be defeated." Her words resonated with people around the world. Citizens gathered in cities, and community leaders rallied people to help each other, working to ensure everyone was ready, no matter what happened. Earth had already shown that it could face a powerful enemy and survive. Now they would prove that they could fight back. As the Draconian fleet neared, Earth's defenses were tested like never before. The magnetic shields surrounded the planet, a faint but constant hum echoing through every city and home. The shield was Earth's first line of defense, but the world knew that it wouldn't be enough on its own. In space, the Draconians were preparing to launch their assault. Their ships were formidable, designed for power and precision. But what they didn't know was that Earth had something they couldn't anticipate: human ingenuity and the will to survive. Earth's engineers and scientists had been working on developing new technologies, weapons that could turn the tide of battle. As the Draconian fleet drew closer, the world waited with bated breath, knowing that the coming storm would decide Earth's future. On Earth, humanity stood at a crossroads. The stakes were higher than ever before, but the planet was no longer the fragile, vulnerable world it had once been. It had evolved, learned, and adapted. It had proven itself resilient and strong. And now it would show the galaxy that no matter what came its way, Earth would not fall. The time had come. Earth's defenses were in place, the magnetic shield humming softly around the planet. The Draconian fleet, a force so powerful it had once seemed unstoppable, was now only hours away from Earth. Across the globe, people held their breath. The unknown was just beyond the horizon, and they could feel it. President Olivia Harris stood before the world, speaking with confidence and strength. Her words echoed in the hearts of billions. "We stand together," she said. "We have worked together, fought together, and now we face the greatest challenge humanity has ever known. But remember this, we are not alone. We have each other, and together we will protect this planet." Across Earth, people watched her speech, their hearts swelling with pride. They had been through so much, and now they knew that Earth had become something more than just a planet. It had become a symbol of hope, unity, and strength. No matter what happened, they had made it this far. Together, they would face the Draconians. The Draconian fleet continued to close in on Earth, their ships gleaming in the cold void of space. Commander Rithar's eyes were fixed on the planet below, a world that had dared to defy the Draconian Empire. His anger burned with each passing second. "They think their shield will save them," he muttered to himself. "They are fools." Rithar's orders were clear. The Draconians would unleash their full force. They would shatter Earth's defenses and crush the planet beneath their might. Nothing would stand in their way. But as the Draconians prepared for their final assault, something was different. Earth was not the same world they had invaded before. The magnetic shield was stronger than anyone had imagined. It pulsed with energy, and for the first time, the Draconians felt a sense of doubt. Back on Earth, the people waited. Military forces were in position, and the first wave of defense systems was ready to launch. The satellites that had been deployed months ago now activated their full power. The magnetic shield expanded, creating a barrier so strong that the very fabric of space around Earth seemed to ripple. The first Draconian ships approached, and the battle began. Rithar ordered his fleet to attack, his voice cold with determination. But as the first wave of energy blasts from the Draconian ships collided with Earth's shield, something unexpected happened. The blasts dispersed harmlessly, as if the shield absorbed them entirely. The Draconians had never encountered anything like it. "This is impossible," Rithar shouted, watching in disbelief as his ship's weapons failed to break through. The Draconians were not prepared for the shield's strength. They had underestimated Earth once, and now they were paying the price. The magnetic field around the planet pulsed with power, repelling each strike and sending the Draconians into a chaotic retreat. But Rithar was not one to give up easily. He ordered his fleet to regroup and try again. The Draconians had other weapons at their disposal, advanced energy cannons and stealth ships that could slip past defenses. They had their backup plans. However, Earth's forces were ready. The GDI had been preparing for this moment for months, and they had developed new countermeasures to protect the shield. A series of orbital cannons launched from Earth's satellites, targeting the Draconian fleet's vulnerable points. The first hit was direct, and a massive explosion ripped through one of the Draconian warships. It was a warning shot. The Draconians responded with fury, but the Earth defense systems were too advanced, too precise. Humanity's ingenuity shone through as weapon after weapon from Earth's fleet found its mark. The Draconians began to retreat, slowly at first, and then in a full-blown withdrawal. Their once unbeatable fleet was now struggling to hold its ground. On Earth, the people watched as the tide of battle shifted. The magnetic shield held strong, and Earth's counterattacks had shattered the Draconian assault. Across the world, cheers erupted. People hugged, cried, and celebrated, but they knew the battle wasn't over yet. The Draconians might regroup and return for a second strike, but humanity had proven something important. Earth was no longer the weak, helpless planet it once was. In the midst of the chaos, President Harris stood before the global leaders, a small but proud smile on her face. "We have done it," she said, "but this is just the beginning. We have shown the galaxy that we are strong. We are united, and we will continue to fight for our world. No one will take it from us." Back in space, Commander Rithar's fleet continued to retreat. His anger boiled over, but he knew he had no choice. Earth had proven its strength, and for the first time in a long time, Rithar was uncertain of the future. As Earth's victory spread across the globe, there was a new understanding. Humanity had just defeated an empire. The message was clear: Earth would not bow to anyone. The galaxy had watched as Earth stood strong against the might of the Draconian fleet, and they would never forget it. The battle was over, but the war for Earth's future had only just begun. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and as the stars above glimmered brightly, Earth stood strong, united, and ready for whatever the universe had in store. "They think their shield will save them," he muttered to himself. "They are fools." Rithar's orders were clear. The Draconians would unleash their full force. They would shatter Earth's defenses and crush the planet beneath their might. Nothing would stand in their way. But as the Draconians prepared for their final assault, something was different. Earth was not the same world they had invaded before. The magnetic shield was stronger than anyone had imagined. It pulsed with energy, and for the first time, the Draconians felt a sense of doubt. Back on Earth, the people waited. Military forces were in position, and the first wave of defense systems was ready to launch. The satellites that had been deployed months ago now activated their full power. The magnetic shield expanded, creating a barrier so strong that the very fabric of space around Earth seemed to ripple. The first Draconian ships approached, and the battle began. Rithar ordered his fleet to attack, his voice cold with determination. But as the first wave of energy blasts from the Draconian ships collided with Earth's shield, something unexpected happened. The blasts dispersed harmlessly, as if the shield absorbed them entirely. The Draconians had never encountered anything like it. "This is impossible," Rithar shouted, watching in disbelief as his ship's weapons failed to break through. The Draconians were not prepared for the shield's strength. They had underestimated Earth once, and now they were paying the price. The magnetic field around the planet pulsed with power, repelling each strike and sending the Draconians into a chaotic retreat. But Rithar was not one to give up easily. He ordered his fleet to regroup and try again. The Draconians had other weapons at their disposal: advanced energy cannons and stealth ships that could slip past defenses. They had their backup plans. However, Earth's forces were ready. The GDI had been preparing for this moment for months, and they had developed new countermeasures to protect the shield. A series of orbital cannons launched from Earth's satellites, targeting the Draconian fleet's vulnerable points. The first hit was direct, and a massive explosion ripped through one of the Draconian warships. It was a warning shot. The Draconians responded with fury, but the Earth defense systems were too advanced, too precise. Humanity's ingenuity shone through as weapon after weapon from Earth's fleet found its mark. The Draconians began to retreat, slowly at first, and then in a full-blown withdrawal. Their once unbeatable fleet was now struggling to hold its ground. On Earth, the people watched as the tide of battle shifted. The magnetic shield held strong, and Earth's counterattacks had shattered the Draconian assault. Across the world, cheers erupted. People hugged, cried, and celebrated, but they knew the battle wasn't over yet. The Draconians might regroup and return for a second strike, but humanity had proven something important. Earth was no longer the weak, helpless planet it once was. In the midst of the chaos, President Harris stood before the global leaders, a small but proud smile on her face. "We have done it," she said, "but this is just the beginning. We have shown the galaxy that we are strong. We are united, and we will continue to fight for our world. No one will take it from us." Back in space, Commander Rithar's fleet continued to retreat. His anger boiled over, But he knew he had no choice. Earth had proven its strength, and for the first time in a long time, Rithar was uncertain of the future. As Earth's victory spread across the globe, there was a new understanding. Humanity had just defeated an empire. The message was clear. Earth would not bow to anyone. The galaxy had watched as Earth stood strong against the might of the Draconian fleet, and they would never forget it. The battle was over, but the war for Earth's future had only just begun. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and as the stars above glimmered brightly, Earth stood strong, united, and ready for whatever the universe had in store.